Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear members and friends. Thank you for joining us today for our online session, Doing Business with Botswana, in collaboration with the Botswana Investment and Trade Center. My name is Leah Etzebeth. I'm the Chamber's Regional Coordinator, and together with my colleague Angeline Marokwane from our Public Relations and Marketing Department, we will be guiding you through this session here today. First of all, I would like to acknowledge our keynote speaker, Her Excellency, Mrs. Masehua Messiah Bamba. She's the Ambassador of the Republic of Botswana to the Federal Republic of Germany. Our others respective speakers include Mr. Keletsositse Olebile, CEO of the Botswana Investment and Trade Center, and Mr. Metla Messiah, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Mineral Resources, Green Technology and Energy Security. Before we start, let me quickly guide you through our house rules for this session. Kindly note, this webinar session is being recorded and we might publish it afterwards on websites like Facebook. The question and answer session will take place at the end of the overall discussion, and please post your questions in the chat function box, which will appear on the right-hand side of your screen. Questions will be published by the organizations and the webinar host at the end of this webinar. Quickly, with regards to your host today, a brief overview of our organization, the Chamber. Established in 1952, the Southern African German Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the oldest and largest bilateral chamber, representing over 600 members and stakeholders throughout South Africa, the SADC region and Germany. Through the years, the German Chamber has played a vital role in facilitating the establishment of business links between Southern Africa.
But the problem is when they talk, I can't hear.
In Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Maputo and Lusaka, we support the economic relations between South Africa, the other members of the Southern African Development Community and Germany by supplying information on the economic situation in these countries, bringing together potential trade partners and offering a wide range of other essential services. The Chamber is part of the Global Chamber Network, which is represented by 140 offices in 92 countries. For today's session, we have collaborated with the Botswana Investment and Trade Center to bring information about doing business with Botswana. A topic which seems to be of high interest, given that we have received more than 120 registrations for this session. So we are looking forward to a very exciting webinar, which brings me to our first presenter. Our keynote speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Messiah Bamba, was appointed on as Botswana's second ambassador to the Federal Republic of Germany on 18 December 2018. The ambassador is an international civil servant with over 30 years senior level experience in the field of business, development, and multilateral diplomacy. She served as the Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth for a period of 6 years up to 2014. So with these words, I would like to hand over to Her Excellency. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to your presentation. Please bear with us for a second while we're getting the ambassador on. Thank you for your patience. We're experiencing a slight technical delay. We're waiting for the ambassador. She will be up shortly. Thank you very much. Yeah. Please bear with us for a couple more minutes. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are still experiencing technical difficulties to connect the ambassador, we will move on to our first speaker, who is Mr. Keletsutsitse Olebile. He is the CEO of the Botswana Investment and Trade Center. Mr. Olebile, if you could get ready for your presentation while I'll be introducing you. Mr. Olebile is the Chief Executive Officer of Botswana Investment and Trade Center. His role includes being the lead advocate for competitive and attractive investment climate in Botswana, facilitation of both domestic and foreign sourced investments, provision of aftercare services for companies doing business in Botswana, facilitation of regional expansions by Botswana-based companies, and facilitation of Botswana goods and services into diversified export markets. Of great importance within his role is the national image building and global awareness creation about Botswana through the brand Botswana portfolio. He currently also serves as board member of the Special Economic Zone Authority and board member for the Non-Bank Financial Institutions Regulatory Authority. Mr. Olebile, thank you very much for joining us here today. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. Let me recognize the leadership from the German Chamber, our own leadership, Her Excellency the Ambassador of Botswana to Germany, as well as Permanent Secretary Metla Masire of the Ministry of Minerals Energy. I'll be taking you through a very quick presentation on some of the macroeconomic attributes of Botswana, more at a generic level, but later on when we get to discuss, I'm very sure we can get into the specifics, as well as the speakers that will follow after me will tend to give you the very specifics of Botswana and what pertains. Hope it can move. Okay, controller, I'm trying to move my slides here. Just seems to be frozen. Right, there we go. This is the presentation outline which I want to dwell in. Let's go to the key figures and facts about Botswana. Most of you would already know, working from South Africa, that Botswana is a country with a very small population of 2.33 million. Not very blessed in that regard. That is why the country always positions itself as the gateway for both investment and trade into the rest of the SADC region. And I will explain that in a more detail later on as we go. Our GDP per capita as a country, it's at US $7,961, which places us as upper middle income country. Inflation managed very well. Our objective range set by the central bank is between 3 and 6%. And for the last few years, we've been working or operating within that objective range. But you will see that as of June, probably borrowing from, bearing from the challenges of COVID, we've seen inflation actually going down to 0.9%. That then translates into very low interest rates. As you can see, our bank rate is at 4.25. and then commercial banks will lend at 5.75%. The other 2 points there will tend to indicate both, the exports and imports, particularly of commodities that are recorded in Botswana. Now, let's go to Botswana's competitiveness. You will know this country as a country with sustained spirals of economic growth. We recorded 4.5% in 2018. 4.2% 2019, and before COVID landed, we were projected to grow at 4.8%, but now those numbers have been revised, obviously because of the global pandemic. We are known by prudent macroeconomic management, as noted in that report of the Economic Intelligence Unit in 2020. And then Botswana is known for a strong balance sheet with net external creditor position, meaning that the country would have more money with other countries than other countries have with it. So I think that emanates from that prudent macroeconomic management. So that then will translate into very high or investment grade sovereign credit ratings as noted by Moody's and Standard & Poor's. So that effectively says, from a capital raising point of view, Botswana becomes quite an ideal jurisdiction to work from, because your company will be trusted and you'll be able to raise funds from various sources around the world. And then one of the areas we are really driving is to improve the ease of doing business. The institution that I lead, Botswana Investment and Trade Center, is the national one-stop shop for Botswana. So if anybody decides to come in and invest, we are the people that will handhold you through all the approvals, just at one place under one roof, so that it's really a seamless experience for you. Now, this slide basically tells us that because of the small population in Botswana, we tend to see ourselves, as I said, as a gateway to the bigger population across SADC. You can see that we are centrally located in the geography of SADC. Therefore, we are able to effectively link and be accessible by proximity as well with all the other countries surrounding us, like Zambia, Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and even others like Angola, which is why every policy in this country makes sure that Botswana is open for investment and open for trade. Number one, you will see later that we don't have, for example, exchange controls. That tends to facilitate the ease of deployment of capital in any country that is surrounding us. So you can see the number of people that you are able to effectively access when you are operating from Botswana, because every policy is structured to give you seamless and unhindered access to the bigger population across SADC. Now, to emphasize the earlier point, you will see that Botswana has signed quite a number of bilateral, multilateral trade agreements. So if you are producing from Botswana, you are immediately under the SADC trade protocol, which gives you preferential market access to the rest of SADC. Under SADC, you will know of the structure called SACU, Southern African Customs Union, which is one of the oldest customs union in Africa, where Botswana, together with South Africa, Namibia, Lesotho, and Swaziland, basically enable each other's goods duty-free and quota-free into the 61 million people, as a total sum across those countries. We also have under SACU an arrangement with what we call the EFTA countries, European Free Trade Area, which has membership of countries like Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. So through our membership of SACU, you are also able to seamlessly access these countries without a hassle. SACU Mercosur, which is basically the ability to trade with South America. So we do have this preferential agreement through the Mercosur structure of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay. So producing from Botswana, you are able to seamlessly sell there as well. We are a member or a beneficiary under the AGOA arrangement, the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act in the United States of America. So effectively, we are given multiple product lines that we can sell under preferential arrangements in the US. There is another arrangement that we signed with Zimbabwe, which also is still applicable. And then the tripartite EAC SADC COMESA. Now the key thing which we have circled in the red circle is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, which Botswana is signatory to. Still a developing area, but we do believe that Botswana is going to benefit greatly once all the formalities have been put out of the way. And then we have the EU SADC EPA, most important for Germany, where we also devise strategies to make sure that we can maximize benefit out of the preferential arrangement. And at the bottom, you will see the websites or where you can visit to get more information about these arrangements. Now, this slide speaks about trade between Botswana and Germany. On the left-hand side, you will see what Botswana imports from Germany. And you will see that over the years, the trade balance is really in favor of Germany. So, but we believe that there's still far more that can be done. On the right-hand side, you will see what Botswana exports to Germany. And most interesting for today's discussion, you will see that we would have things like ignition wiring sets and other wiring sets for vehicles, emanating from the fact that Germany, being a large established auto manufacturer, we as Botswana also house a sizable quantity of ignition wiring harnesses manufactured in Botswana, predominantly for the South African OEMs. But in the end, you will see that there is interaction even with the base market in Germany. So these are some of the lines that we believe we can put forward. Two countries benefit from each other in terms of the experience so that we can expand some of these product lines. Now, here is a map from the International Trade Center, which basically says what products are in Botswana at the moment that have potential to sell in Germany. And the size of the bubble basically gives you the size of the potential. And you can see that probably the largest bubble indicates the sector of textiles, but you can see that also huge opportunities in beef, as well as I said earlier on, ignition wiring sets for vehicles. So we do have the other smaller dots. And if you were to look at an opportunity to invest in Botswana, those are the areas that we really have to put forward to make sure that more can really be done in terms of facilitating more trade of Botswana products in Germany. Now, this next one, also from the International Trade Center, gives you the trade potential of goods from Germany that will have a realistic opportunity to sell in Botswana. And you can see the biggest dot there probably is medicaments. Medicaments, because Botswana imports almost 100% of its medicines. And it's one area where we are looking at substituting. So we are saying, look, for all this massive demand that we have on the ground as a country, there is an opportunity for some of this production capacity to come near shore in Botswana so that you can serve the already abundant demand for medicines, particularly in the public hospitals. But you will see that the area of motor vehicles, again, comes quite strongly. We do have a number of German models that are already selling, but we believe even for those that haven't entrenched, they can either come for production, component manufacturing, and the rest of the aspects in the value chain. So you will see that, when we talk about trade, which will also facilitate entrenched investment, there are lots of opportunities that have been noted even by global bodies like International Trade Center. Now, these are the priority investment sectors, particularly for Botswana in this situation of COVID. We have put agriculture forward. Agriculture because we are looking at building to our self-sustenance. in key commodities for food. And you will see that one of the projects we are putting forward there for public-private partnership is what we call the Zambezi Agro Commercial Project. That is where government intends to tap into water from what we call the Chobe Zambezi rivers and be able to supply an already established production center, agricultural production center in the north called Pandamatenga. So it's a project that's been valued at around 3.8 billion. And government will be looking at partners there to take it up and make sure that it deploys. The whole idea is to facilitate massive grain production as well as horticulture. So it's an opportunity that we are putting forward. Look at horticulture. Fresh fruit imports in 2019 amounted to $29.5 million US, mainly from South Africa. We would be importing 99.7% from South Africa, and we are looking there again to substitute because we believe we have the same climate, the same soil conditions, and many other enablers as other countries in the region like South Africa. So there is an opportunity to come in, work with the institution we lead, BITC, so that we facilitate you with all the factors of production and you are able to deploy your investment. Look at a sector like ostrich farming, which Botswana has previously tried. It didn't work out well because we didn't proportionate things across the value chain. We built more like a high capacity abattoir that didn't equate to the rate of production of the birds on the ground. When the abattoir opened, it sort of mopped out all the birds, but the opportunity was very high. Therefore, we are trying to take the lessons, previous lessons from experiences in that sector, to make sure that we can proportionate it correctly and get it going. There is actually an ostrich multiplication center owned by government at a place called Dibiti, which is about probably 100 kilometers north of Gaborone, where they already have some birds in stock. They already have hatchery machines and all the basic experience, but they are looking at an anchor farmer who will come in and run that center with a view to enable the other smaller farmers that will also be clustering with the anchor farmer around there. So ostrich farming is quite a key opportunity in Botswana. Now look at dairy production. We are also sharing numbers there. Milk production in Botswana equates to around 8.08 million liters as of 2019. And we are importing the rest of the 38.9 million liters that we require in the country. So we believe that there is a huge opportunity there to also come in and substitute this to build self-sustenance before we look at export markets. And then there are other sectors like aquaculture, which is fish farming, where predominantly most of the fish that we will consume in the country will be coming from natural fish from the rivers. But we believe for sustainable methods, we should be able to substitute somewhere and actually farm this fish in independent standing farms, so that from there on we can, let breeding take place and protect those in the rivers. So there is a huge opportunity looking at those numbers. We consume 4,000 tons a year, but we are only producing 300 tons at the moment. So that 3,700 tons is waiting for you to come in and invest and be able to tap into the existing market. Now, this slide was basically to give you an appreciation of the auto sector in Botswana. We have a company headquartered in Austria that German owned called Grubeck and Schubeck, which is the leading auto components manufacturer in Botswana, particularly in the space of wiring harnesses. So we believe in this sector, there's actually space for more people to come in and play. The second company called Chloride Exide, established in Botswana as far back as 1990, also produces most of the batteries that will be in sale around the SADC region. These are chloride batteries. So there again, it's quite an opportunity, to come and complement their production capacity to still serve the existing, if not other markets in the the general auto industry. Then we have another company that originates from Malaysia called Pasdec. It's in a town called Lobate, our beef production town. It's also doing relatively well, serving the models of Nissan, Renault, and Volkswagen. So we believe that for all these companies having found the need to locate in Botswana, it then, I think, presents a very solid, compelling proposition for other similar companies to also come and tap into the benefits and make sure that they can establish a solid industry on the ground, which will be actively supported by government. This slide was just to give you a glimpse of some of the top exports from Botswana, but we are focusing for purpose of today on the yellow bar, which speaks about the exports of insulated ignition wiring, exactly to make the point that this is a sector that has been growing over the years in Botswana by size of exports and volumes. If you look at the numbers from 2013 all the way to 2018. So I think it represents a solid case for you to consider Botswana for auto components manufacturing. Now, the other key enabler here, which also speaks to the location of Botswana, relates to the proximity to some of the OEMs or the vehicle assemblies in South Africa. You will see how close we are to Roslyn, around Pretoria. We will see how close we are, 917 kilometers from Durban, as well as Eastern Cape, which are the key centers of production in South Africa. So it becomes very convenient to be able to supply almost real time from Botswana to some of these centers. And we believe, even if more were to develop either in Namibia, Zambia, we would still be able to timely supply, because we are right in the center of everything in SADC. Now, this slide I was sharing to also show you that we are committed to play even deeper in the auto industry as Botswana. Our president, His Excellency Mokgweetsi Masisi, committed when he ascended that he will, during his term, work to produce an electric vehicle in Botswana, because green is the future, and therefore a lot of companies and universities took up the challenge and started working on various models of electric vehicles. Now, the car that you see actually in the picture is a car that is made in Mogoditsane. Mogoditsane is right outside our city, Gaborone, which will probably be the first electric vehicle to soon be launched in Botswana. It's still undergoing testing. So we are saying, look, there is a lot of space for these future-looking innovators to also come in and be incentivized to make sure that we can really tap into the future of mobility. So it's already happening, as you can see. There is a mini vehicle right in front of you, proudly manufactured in Botswana. There is space for more to come. Now here we're talking about other priority investment sectors. For example, manufacturing. General manufacturing is actually incentivized in Botswana, as you will see in my next slide. That is because we have seen the importance of manufacturing as a contributor to transfer of skills, technology, as well as export earning for the country. So we believe it's a sector that can create a lot of jobs for our youth, and therefore that's why we incentivize it. In mining, we tend to promote resource beneficiation. That is, for all the minerals that we have in the country, how much downstream processing can be done within the country so that it creates more jobs. And some of the commodities that we have are listed there: abundant soda ash, coal. Actually, when we speak coal, it's not a very popular source of energy around the world, but you will see that we have a company called Botswana Oil that is looking at deploying technology through the private sector of converting this coal to liquids. It's one of the projects that are live, having been conceived. So we can actually facilitate you to talk to them so that you see how you can hold hands and work together. I will skip the energy sector because I know the next speaker is going to cover it quite in depth. In the services sector as well, we have a compelling value proposition, particularly through a framework called the International Financial Services Center, which I will expand on in a while. Transport and logistics emanating from the central location of the country, and therefore government is currently in the process of deploying some infrastructure projects, particularly rail projects. That one called Mama Bula Lepalale is a 57-kilometer rail line that is planned to connect to the main network in South Africa, particularly facilitating coal exports, but many other commodities to go with it. It's 57 kilometers. There is another one heading up north called Mosetseka Zungula. It will be 356 kilometers, connecting at a point where you cross the Zambezi River into Zambia. And we believe once that railway is done across the bridge, it will really facilitate a lot of trade with the fast-growing markets north of Botswana, and which is why now it entrenches the proposition that for your logistics, transportation, warehousing, Botswana really becomes an attractive place because you will be able to quickly supply in Zambia, DRC, Malawi, and other countries up north. And then tourism and hospitality is one sector currently that has been hard hit by COVID because of the limitations on global travel. Tourists are not arriving, but we believe the sector will ultimately rebound, and there are still opportunities to play in that regard. So if you are interested as an investor in tourism, we'll be able to show you around to the opportunities that you can tap into in Botswana. Now, this next slide basically gives you the Botswana's tax competitiveness, moving close to incentives. You will see that corporate tax in Botswana is at 22%, below the global average of 23.57, also below the African average of 27.5. So you will see that Botswana is quite competitive from a tax perspective compared to other African countries. But we've still found it fitting to incentivize some of the sectors that we have prioritized. For example, I said, when you are a manufacturer in Botswana and you fit the definition of manufacturing, you will pay corporate tax at 15% as opposed to 22% that everybody else pays. There is also a framework called the IFSC. The IFSC is a framework that says, utilize Botswana's desirable attributes to have an operating structure which basically enables other operating entities under your name in the SADC region. And for that, for all the revenues that you will register in Botswana, having been derived from these other countries, you will find that you incentivize you at 15% as opposed to 22% of everybody. So it's a framework that I will expound on shortly. So that you understand how it is. Then we have another dispensation called the Innovation Hub, which is really a science and technology enablement dispensation, where if you are assessed to actually locate under their framework because your investment is science, innovation related, futuristic, they will incentivize you to pay at 15% instead of 22%. Then there is a region called the Spedu Region. This is a region right at the horn of Botswana, if you understand the map of Botswana, where the borders of Botswana, South Africa, and Zimbabwe meet. This region used to be anchored by a copper mine from as far back as 1976. Then lately, because of commodity price challenges and other issues, the mine had to close down. Therefore, government had to intervene because 6,000 jobs were at stake. They declared this region as a special economic zone and therefore devised a customized tax framework for this particular region. So if you go in to the Spedu region and you operate in the sectors of manufacturing, of tourism, and agriculture, you will be paying corporate tax at 5% for the first 5 years and then 10% thereafter. So this region actually even lowers you in terms of the tax exposure that you have. And it's one region that we put forward for manufacturing, agriculture, and tourism operators to really consider locating in. Now, as we said, corporate tax generally for everybody else maximizes at 22%. Value-added tax is at 12%. The personal income tax, which is what you pay as an employee from your payslip, maximizes at 25%, but we use what we call an escalating table of tax, which on average will be around 25%, but for lower amounts, it could be less than 25%. And then we also have a dispensation in our tax laws that says if you are really deploying a highly strategic investment in Botswana, you have an opportunity to negotiate with the Minister of Finance and Economic Development under what you call Development Approval Order, where they can afford you tax holidays of up to 10 years. But obviously, as I said, it takes a bit of negotiation with the minister. This is a dispensation provided for in law. So if we believe it's a highly strategic investment that will really revolutionize the way business is done in Botswana, you can basically and easily access that. Now, this framework called the International Financial Services Center, as I said, it's a framework that we started back in 2003, where because of Botswana's stability and general desirable attributes, we said, let us use these to be able to enable other countries in the region. For example, when you are an investor from Germany, you will be thinking, oh, can I really go and live with my family in a certain country? Sometimes because of the profiles of different countries across Africa, it becomes quite a challenge. So we believe that if you can come in, locate your central structure in Botswana, and then have operating subsidiaries elsewhere across SADC, you control these operating subsidiaries through this central structure in Botswana. We believe that will be enabling investment in other countries as well. And for that, we incentivize, as I said, you will pay tax at 15%. Then it's a dispensation that necessitated us to repeal the exchange controls. In other words, in Botswana, you can bring money in and out as you please without having to apply for central or the Reserve Bank approval. And then the other key benefit under this framework is that there is a 15% tax credit provided for in law, where they are saying if you have incurred some taxes in other countries that you are operating in on money that will ultimately land in Botswana at your holding structure, we will enable you up to a tax credit of up to 15% for the taxes that you have incurred in those other countries where we don't have double taxation avoidance treaties. Then companies under this sector are zero rated for VAT. That means comply with everything that has to do with VAT, but upon a positive assessment, all the VAT you would have paid during the year will be refunded back to you. There is also an exemption from what we call withholding tax when you are paying to qualifying non-residents. So you find that when everybody else is paying out to either their funders, their partners, their strategic stakeholders outside, there will be withholding tax in Botswana of 7.5%. But when you are registered under this IFSC, we don't, we fully exempt you from withholding, such that the money goes without being taxed. And then there is also an exemption from what we call capital gains tax. If you are disposing of assets in a company where your shareholding exceeds 25%. In other words, if you have invested in a subsidiary in Zambia and you believe that maybe the time has come for you to dispose of the shares, because you funded the purchase of the shares from the entity in Botswana, and therefore the earnings for the sale of shares will be realized in Botswana, for all the capital appreciation in the value of the asset, we will not tax you as long as you are IFSC and you were owning more than 25% in that subsidiary. Now, the other incentive in Botswana is that when you are importing manufacturing and agricultural machinery and equipment, they come in customs duty free. So that's another key enabler that the country has put in place. And then lastly, there is another quite attractive incentive where if you are a company operating in Botswana and you are investing in training the people on the ground, you will be afforded a tax rebate of up to 200% of the training costs that you would have incurred in imparting skills on people. So we do encourage as a government active investment in training and transfer of skills, and that's why we incentivize in this manner. I'm moving to a close just to share a bit about Botswana Investment and Trade Center, the institution that I represent. If there is any investment inquiry that you want to make about Botswana, the opportunities and the processes that you will have to follow in deploying on the ground, we are the people to talk to. As I said, we run a one-stop services center, and these are some of the service lines that we offer through that center. If you want to register a business, talk to us. We will make it seamless. Open a bank account, connect utilities, obtain trade and business licenses, whether industrial, commercial. Even if you are looking for a piece of land or factory shell, we will take you by hand and make sure that you do access such. We facilitate entry visas, work and residence permits, even exemptions, tax registration matters. And we have on the last bar there a very important service that we offer. When you have invested in Botswana, every year, time and again, we tend to visit you, to sit down at the table, get to understand the successes and challenges that you are experiencing, so that in the end, if there's anything we need to intervene on your behalf, we can take it on time and make sure that your investment is enabled at every time. With those few details, I thank you. I'll be very happy to take questions at a later stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olebile, for this very insightful presentation. As we are still waiting for Her Excellency Ambassador Masire Bamba to participate, maybe let's take some questions. We had a couple of questions coming in through the chat function, and I'll maybe read through them and publish them as we go along. Yeah. First of all, there was a general question if the recording of the session will be available afterwards. Yes, we are recording, and we will also publish the recording later on for people to access. And connected to that was the question if the presentations themselves will be available. Of course, we will consult here with the speakers, but as soon as that's been confirmed, and I'm quite positive about that, we will also be able to distribute and publish the presentations themselves. With this, Mr. Olebile, if you're available to answer some of the questions. The first question here has been posted anonymously, and it says, please elaborate on any concessions for ICT and BPO opportunities.
Right. ICT and BPO is actually a sector that is recognized under this International Financial Services Center, because we believe that when you come in as a BPO operator, for example, you will not only be looking at servicing the domestic market, because it's very small, 2 million people. So the sort of BPO operators that we are looking at attracting will be those that take whether inbound or outbound business from other countries, from the international connections. So for that, they are incentivized, exactly as I've said, under the International Financial Services Center framework. But to seeing the need for us to be competitive in that space, we are finalizing a proposal where all these companies in BPO will be given what you call wholesale connection rates for bandwidth, wholesale connection rates, so that it really brings the cost down. And we are considering a strategy, even though it's not there, where we can also provide what we call plug and play facilities, where somebody can come in, find a purpose-built facility, try your business model, so that if it doesn't work, your exposure levels will be very low, because everything else will be provided. But that, as I say, is still under discussion with government. It's something that I can't affirm now. And then we're also looking at incentives of which is still under discussion, incentivizing where a government can give some wage subsidies per seat, per call center seat that a call center will be providing, but still under development. Watch the space. We will communicate when it's ready.
Thank you very much for the extensive answer. I trust the question has been answered with that. We have another question coming in, this time not anonymously, but from Libalele Energy, Mr. Christoph Heinemann. He would like to know if it is possible to be connected with Botswanan companies working on EVS and e-mobility, as he is busy himself with the development of an e-mobility ecosystem in South Africa. Is this something that BITC could help with?
Yes, that's exactly what we do. He can express his interest directly to us on the contacts provided. We will be able to facilitate that business-to-business linkage.
Okay, thank you very much. Then there is an anonymous question from Botswana itself. It says here, working from Botswana as a supplier OEM, how do you work with South Africa in light of the localization policy that the South African market has?
Say again, he's saying working from Botswana?
Yes, so if you are an OEM or supplier in Botswana and you would like to work with the South African clients, partners, the localization policy that the South African market has in place, how will that work out from your point of view?
Right, we are always studying policies that South Africa brings to effect. I think the localization policy is referring to is one that affects certain product lines. For example, we remember sometime last year, South Africa came with this policy where they said for all their public works, 100% of the pipe inputs particularly have to come from South Africa. So immediately companies that were based in Botswana with a view to supply South Africa were quite hindered, and we saw some of them having to transfer some capacity into South Africa exactly to comply with that policy stance. But you will find that there is still a bigger market elsewhere in SADC. So even where South Africa would have regulated as such, you still have a bigger advantage of producing from Botswana to be able to supply the rest of the other countries, which may not be the market size that South Africa has, but it's still, I think, a sizable market size that people can't ignore. So we are always, as policies change, meandering to make sure that Botswana still stays relevant, whether you produce for South Africa or you are producing for the rest of SADC in other countries.
All right, yeah, thank you very much for that answer. I have a question maybe a bit related to that. So someone would like to know and understand the localization requirements, I assume in this case related to Botswana. Do you have requirements maybe similar to BEE to be able to trade fairly in Botswana?
Yes, but maybe not as stringent. In Botswana, for example, we haven't reached a point where we categorize investment by whether somebody is indigenous or not. Our common word is local. Local means you are producing from Botswana, whether you are from Germany or wherever. But the only empowerment schemes that we have is that there are certain sectors in Botswana that are reserved for locals, for citizens, as an empowerment and playing economic catch-up. But it will be things like your brick molding, your textiles, small things like that. But to a large extent, it's a very open economy where everybody can play their role. The other key enabler, which works for both local and foreign investors, is that in Botswana, we have a framework called Economic Diversification Drive, This is aimed at encouraging consumption of locally produced goods. In other words, for government procurement, when, for example, you bid and you are a company that produces in Botswana, you are given certain preferential margins such that even if your price is not the cheapest, you will still be given the advantage because you are producing in Botswana, you are adding value in the economy. So it's a broader framework that we can explain in another day, where it accommodates both foreign-owned and local citizen-owned, as long as you are producing on the ground in Botswana.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that also answers another question related to that, where someone is asking for input on local regulation, local standards. So I think this is something that can be answered in more detail while addressing you or your colleagues directly. Someone else mentioned here the Innovation Hub. Could you give a status update on that? What's the status there with regards to clients and the incentives that this Innovation Hub will provide?
Right. The Innovation Hub, as I said, there was 57 hectares of land that got demarcated close to the main airport in Gaborone, where a very iconic building has been put up, basically to house, to serve as more like an incubation and enablement center for innovative and science engineering related ideas that are coming up. The construction of that building is done. There are actually other plots around that locality where if you want to be a player in there, you just submit an application to them, the Innovation Hub. There's actually a government unit that runs that, and then they will assess you for qualification to operate within the Science and Technology Park. When they are satisfied that, yes, you are a company that suits their criteria, they will incentivize you, number one, by hosting you into the state-of-the-art building with high broadband connectivity, and all that, as well as incentivize you from a tax perspective, where you are paying at 15% instead of 22%. So it's another initiative where we can share more details, as well as also put you in touch with the people that are running the hub on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Ondebile. I'm quickly going through the chat here. We have one or two people that would like to get in touch with you further. So how would we go about connecting people? Is it directly with you? How would one preferably address BITC for support with, for example, setting up a company, discussing further business opportunities for certain sectors? Maybe tell us a bit about the structure of BITC and how to get in touch with the right and relevant people.
Right. Since I would assume most of the participants are based in South Africa, we do have an office in Johannesburg. And I wanted the director running that office, if he can hear me, to just come in there and share more detail on how they can interact with his office. Bobo, if you are listening, can you come in here and share how they can reach you?
Yes, thank you very much, boss. We are on One Sandton Drive, right here in Sandton. The office line is 011-884-8959. And I can be reached on email address senocb@bitc.co.za. Thank you.
I can't seem to hear him this side. I don't know if he's audible.
Okay, we'll try again to connect him. Just a second.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. The office line is 011-884-8959. I can also be reached on email address senocb@bitc.co.za. So we are on One Sandton Drive at the place. ground floor.
Maybe just for emphasis, Bobo, maybe you can repeat it slower so that people can take it down.
Okay, thank you very much, CEO. The office line is 011-884-8959. Email address is senocb@bitc.co.za. Physical address, we are on 1 Santon Drive, the place on the ground floor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. I can only confirm we're also working very closely with the BITC and Mr. Senosi here in South Africa. So it's yeah, a very fortunate setup to have a BITC representative here in the country as well. So I can only recommend for more detailed questions about certain sectors to get in touch with Mr. Senosi as the representative of BITC here in South Africa, which sometimes makes ways a little bit shorter. Let me quickly see, we have a couple more questions. For the sake of time, I don't think I will include all of them, but maybe let me choose another one. So Dr. Olu, he is asking, we are currently developing a renewable energy electric vehicle charging infrastructure backed by IoT and AI. Is this also an area where we can work with the EV development in Botswana?
Yes, I think if there's such an interest, because as I said, the development of electric vehicles and the whole network of charging systems is something that the president took up and committed to. And we see, you know, universities and other developers really making a good effort in that regard. The small vehicle I showed you, we are assured can be charged in your house, actually, just like a phone. I think that's an interesting one. But in the end, I think as we scale up to sort of larger vehicles that can be put to real use, I think there will be a need to develop that sort of network. So if there's an interest, I encourage that they speak to us. We can then develop it with them from there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olebile. Another question, maybe also with regards to what support you are providing. If a company would like to move their operations, for example, from the South African to the Botswanan market, is this also something you are supporting, and what kind of support can you provide to people?
We'll show you presentation, and you can just
currently the support that we provide is facilitative. I know what probably the question is pointing to. They maybe are asking if we cover some relocation costs. At the moment, no. But as we submitted all those incentives that I said are currently under discussion with government, it's one of those things that we are looking at. But for now, the only benefit is that you will be bringing your machinery and equipment free of customs duty, as well as we will be there as Botswana Investment and Trade Center to help you to seamlessly deploy. There are examples of companies that we can show that have worked with us to relocate successfully to Botswana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olebile. That was very insightful. I'm happy we could take some of the questions. As I said, there's one or two more. We will forward them to the group privately as we're running out of time and still have other speakers that we would like to give the opportunity to present. Thank you for joining us today. And with those words, I would then like to hand over to Mr. Metla Masire. He's the permanent secretary within the Ministry of Mineral Resources, Green Technology and Energy. Mr. Masire is focused on turning around the Ministry of Mineral Resources, Green Technology and Energy Security to deliver effectively on its diverse mandates. He was previously the Chief Executive Officer of Water Utilities Corporation for 4 years, where he stabilized water supply reliability and made reusability profitable. He rejoined the ministry as permanent secretary in July 2019. He first joined government in 2011 at the Diamond Hub as the coordinator, relocation and opportunities. He was charged with the responsibility of driving, from a government perspective, the relocation of De Beers diamond sales function that was valued at $6 billion per annum from London to Botswana. He successfully completed this project ahead of schedule in 2013. Mr. Masire, we look forward to hear from you and get more information within your presentation. Thank you very much for joining us today. Yes, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, everyone can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. Okay, if people can hear me, I can, but thank you very much. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, next slide, please.
Yes, there is a slight delay with the live session. We are changing the slides.
My slides are not moving. Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to be talking to these key points. I'm going to start talking to the mineral policy and diamond beneficiation and okay. Now, when you look at the Botswana mineral sector, I'm hearing myself. Okay, anyway, when you look at the situation,
So you need to have the speakers on your PC turned off so that we avoid the echoing sound coming through. So if you could kindly switch off the speakers on your side. Thank you.
I'll switch off. I'm going to go ahead now. Botswana mineral sector. When you look at the situation that we have in Botswana, we are a country that is one of the most lucrative places from a mining sector point of view. We started in the early 70s where we had basically two mines where we were focusing only on copper and nickel and the diamond. But we have since migrated and grown to be one of the destinations of mining, where we are now operating more than 10 large-scale mines. And now we have diversified our products. We now have diamond, copper, silver, gold, coal, and gold. And going forward, we will be having the likes of uranium and other products that are also coming on board, like iron ore. So this is the direction that we are moving as a country. We have developed well-developed diamond deposit, and has proven over time and has consistently added to the growth of the economy. Botswana is the largest diamond producer by value as we speak right now. And with that, the ministry is looking at encouraging further investment into exploration and exploiting the non-diamond minerals in order to broaden the country's investment base and to diversify the mineral sector. The ministry has therefore set itself an objective of growing and bringing more investors into this area. Next slide, please. While the next slide is coming, coming on. When you look at the mineral policy that we have a policy that is very next slide, please. Our mineral policy objective is to maximize the economic benefits to the nation while enabling private sector to earn competitive returns. Next slide, please. To improve, to create a competitive environment to stimulate private sector investment in mineral development through investor-friendly mineral policy. We have improved linkages with the wider economy and the generation of local sustainable mineral development and support environmental. Can you go to the next slide, please? When you look at the landscape of Botswana, you find that in terms of the mining licenses, we are currently having 18 large mines, and 8 of which are operational. Next slide, please. Then we have 42 quarries licensed, and 31 of them are operational as we speak, and 4 semi-precious pillars. Next slide, please. Then we have precious prospective licenses. When you look at the slide there, you see that we have got more than 600 licenses that I have about 200 companies. This shows you there's a lot of activity in this area where people are seeking to find the many minerals that you have. When you look at the breakdowns of the prospective licenses, in terms of empty minerals, we have about 47. In terms of metals, the biggest metals, whether it's copper, gold, and all those, we have about 244. Precious stones, previous slide, please. We have precious stones, 194, industrial mineral 168, and petroleum we have 3. Okay, when you take our fiscal review, taxation, some of it was covered by my colleague who presented just before me, but I will run through it because this is one of the areas that makes it attractive in terms of mining in Botswana. When you look at our royalty is 10% on the movement of the slide. Okay, thank you. The 10% on precious stones, 5% for precious metals, and only 3% for other minerals. So you can see that we do not charge a large percentages on royalty. So we leave a lot of the value undisturbed. When you look at our variable income tax rate, we also have a structure that allows us to vary how we can calculate your tax and give you the most beneficial of the options that we have. And we have my colleague already talked about the dividends, unlimited dividends can be paid out. When you talk about withholding tax, we are talking about 7.5% in terms of resident or non-resident shareholder dividends or distribution. When you're talking about import duty, my colleague did a good job of covering the taxes. So if we can move to the next slide that talks about the diamond industry. The slide will catch up with me as I'm going along. The diamond industry are historically the mainstay of our country. Botswana is renowned and known for diamonds, but we would like to be known more than just for diamonds. Botswana is one of the founding members of the Kimberley Project. Next slide, please. Of the Kimberley Project, and this has provided a trading of diamonds that are not classified as black diamonds. When you take the key state entities that you have established to help grow our industry and make sure that we can develop and become a major diamond center. The first major area was what we call the diamond hub. The diamond hub is the critical and it's the center that was established with a mission to transform Botswana into a competitive diamond center, emphasizing on rough diamond and polished diamond trading, cutting and polishing jewelry and secondary trading. So that is what the responsibility and the mandate of the diamond hub is. Then we have what we call the Diamond Trading Company, or BTCB. This is the biggest storehouse in the world, and it can value up to 45 million carat per year. So it is the biggest. This means it has capacity to almost carry double the current production of Botswana. So you can see that it is correct. We have then established another company called the Aquaculture Diamond Company. This one sells 50% of Botswana diamonds only. This is what comes out of our Botswana mine, and 15% is sold through this. And this is set up partly to develop our own expertise in terms of diamonds and create opportunity where we are just dealing with non-aggregated diamonds and only Botswana diamonds. Then we have set up a company called Mineral Development Company Botswana MDCB. The purpose of this company was to help the Botswana government to better manage and seek opportunities. This is where we wanted to manage our mineral sector, our mineral investment, because the Botswana government has also invested heavily into the mineral sector. And this is the company that is responsible for managing the government assets and expanding the government portfolio. But it doesn't just focus on diamonds, it focuses on other minerals, such as recently it has acquired being a major stakeholder in coal mine. If we can go into the next slide. When you look at the diamond productions over the years quickly, just looking at here, it will show you that we have been producing a very high, but you'll see dips. Those dips are mirroring the various recessions that we have experienced. We had a major dip in around 2008, 2009. Then we went up again to 2011. We dropped again and went up. So that's the significance of that. And it's showing that amongst the largest diamonds that you have seen around the world recently, we are proud to share with you some of the diamonds that have come out of Botswana and have gone around the world and have been bought. An example is the four that I have just put out there. Swallow, which is 1,700 carats. It's the largest of the lot. But one of the ones that caused a lot of excitement was the one on the street side, the Kobango Blue, 41 million, because of the uniqueness and the color of the diamond. This is just a sample of what we can offer from the diamond sector. Next slide, please. When we move on, we believe that diamonds still have a lot of opportunity. The map that I'm showing of Botswana is showing that we have a large number of kimberlite types that are several fields around the country that we believe that it will give us an opportunity, next slide please, an opportunity for people who are interested. As you can see in the slide, forget about the small writing. It is just highlighting the area, each of those blocks highlights a significant area in terms of where there are major kimberlites that are found. For your information, your name mine is the largest and the most valuable diamond mine in the world in terms of value, return on investment. So this shows that we believe that we have not found all the diamonds yet. So the exploration is very easy and hectic around there where people are still seeking. Our problem now is not actually finding kimberlite. It's to determine whether it's the most optimal kimberlite. So we have a lot of companies finding kimberlite and just banking them and trying to find better and more valuable kimberlite so that they can invest in the most valuable ones that they can find. If we move on to the next slide, please. We have talked about coal. Botswana as a country has got more than 2 billion tons of coal resources. Most of the coal has been long found and the profitability has long been determined. The biggest barrier we have had has been our ability to export the coal. There has been talk of possibly building railing to the port. So, because if we can get the thing and the coal to the port, we would be doing very well. My colleague talked about the other linkages that we are putting, the link with South Africa, where we will be linking the Mamabule and the Kalme area. That will give us a lot of opportunity because we'll be able to export a lot of the coal that we mine into South Africa. So that's really one of the main railways that once it's connected, we will open up the sector significantly because export of coal will become easy. And this is just a system coming together into South Africa. So it's not a very long way. So we can see that once it's open, we'll be able to supply South Africa. Some of the power stations in South Africa will benefit from our coal. If we go to the next slide, I'm talking to what we call coal-bed methane. This is another area where the country is well endowed with that. We believe that we have got more than 60 trillion cubic feet of coal-bed methane. Next slide, please. And but we believe that out of the 60 trillion, about 12 trillion is easily mineable, can be extracted and utilized as one of the major energy sources. Coal-bed methane, right? Botswana government, Botswana government funded any investment into this area, and as a result of that, we have enticed a number of private sector companies. There's a number of companies that are now very active. We have recently signed two power purchase agreements of a smaller scale to try and stimulate and encourage the small producers so that they can start producing into the grid. So we believe this is going to stimulate and bring back more excitement. But we have also signed and are in the process of signing 100 megawatts of coal-bed methane. This is an opportunity, like I said, and it's exciting because it will help us move away from the raw coal fossil fuel. If we go the coal-bed methane, it's more acceptable and it's more environmental friendly. If we go to the next slide, I will focus on the methods, the various methods that we have around the country. This slide shows that, again, don't worry about reading or not reading, but what this slide, the various errors are going to various metal types. When you go to the north, we have got the likes of copper, we are starting to see the likes of silver coming onto the screen. We expect that in the new year, if not a new mine will be open, Continental mine, with the copper mine, we have gold mines, and we have a number of other mines that you are scattered around the country. So I think this is another area that we believe the future looks very great. We have had challenges in the last 2 or 3 years where a lot of the metal prices were down, but we have seen that they are starting to pick up again, and this will now make the business cases quite robust, and some funding will follow soon after that. So this is another area that based on the number of prospective licenses, that the future looks quite good. When we move into our other minerals that we look at, next slide please, we have got soda ash and salt. We have a huge brine reserve, estimated about 60 million cubic meters that are found in the Suapen area. The company mining is called Both Ash, and it is been operating in that area and is able to produce about 650,000 tons per year of soda ash. So again, this is an area that we are looking at possibly further expanding, and other operators can also possibly operate in a similar area along those lines. We have other radioactive minerals such as uranium. This one is at a stage the government is encouraging people to invest further into this area. We believe that exploration and exploitation in this area will result in uranium being mined in the country. We have deposits of uranium. We just need to take it to the next level. When we go to the next slide, I'm going to talk a bit about the things that we are now putting in place to create the right environment to support those who are investing in the area of mining. I've talked about the investment we are doing on the rail. The next slide, please. On the rail to allow us to be able to export our coal and our various minerals that we have. So we are reinventing using the triple P model. So that in itself is an opportunity. So if anybody wants to be or is in the area of transport or rail, this is another project that they could come and participate in. Next slide, please. We are also looking at our fuel storage. We believe that as the mines expand and as people are investing, we need to make sure that as a landlocked country, we have sufficient storage to be able to support the industry. We are currently in the process of building additional storage facility called Kale Hill, next slide, please, which is going to be 180 million liters of strategic stock that we are putting there. We've already done the earthwork. We've done the rail connection. We are now out in the market at the Triple P project to now build the tanks themselves, which will then be able to support this project. Now, if we go to the next slide, we are also conscious that one of the big costs, especially in one or two of our area projects, their business cases were challenged because of the power. They were having to generate their own power. So the country and government has invested a lot of money in upgrading our power grid. When you look at the map on the screen, the big dotted green lines, those are the ones that are the major backbone that were put in the 400 kV line that will be supporting the north and supporting a lot of the areas that I had shown earlier as a high potential for mining and minerals. So this is what this is pushing. But what is important is that, and the takeaway is, we're investing a lot of money in our power grid to be able to provide power throughout the country so that the various investors do not have to generate their own power at huge cost. When we go to the next slide, it's again talking more about what we are doing in terms of our renewable energy. We've just gone out on tender. A short list has gone out, and we expect that by early next year, we'll be awarding 100 megawatts of solar power plants. That is 2 units, one in the south of the country, one in the sort of center north of the country in Pico area. So this is what we are doing. We are also tendering internationally 12 grid types. We've awarded 2 of the 12. We've still got 10 to go, previous likely. And we are looking at 20 hybrids of grid. What we have is we have the remote areas. We've gone too far. The street lights like this. I'm sorry, somebody's controlling my slides and we are missing each other. Okay, I will move on and ignore slides for the funding. If you look at our road network and you look at the tar road facilities, and we are now busy with the new Kazunguwa bridge that we have begun to build, starting to work on the road work, but that we can link the south easily with that network, etc. So our road network is also quite good. We've got a lot of tar roads, and that's message that's showing that as part of the infrastructure that we need, we are putting that in place because some of the mining goods and the mining products are actually using the road network for export and import. When we now come to the end of what I have shared with you, it's relating more towards what makes us a good destination. We have good governance. Botswana is an investor-friendly legislation. We have got a stable economy. We have got a very favorable and competitive fiscal regime. We are a favorable geographical environment, and the protection of the private sector investment is taken very seriously. So, in short, to buttress what my colleagues were saying earlier, when you are investing here, you are safe in terms of your personal safety, you are safe in terms of your investment, you are safe in terms of our laws and regulations. we find that when you invest in Botswana, you can rest and a peace of mind that your investment is in the right place, in the right area. Just for reference, Botswana in terms of physical size is about the same size as France. So you can put it into perspective. So it's a very large country with a lot of open areas for many people to invest and look around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masio, for this very insightful presentation. We have a couple of minutes left with regards to our session for today, and there have been questions asked also in the chat. So if you don't mind staying on the line and responding to some of our questions here. The first one is related to the mining sector specifically. It has been anonymously asked, is there a relation between uranium and gold mineralization?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question properly. Do you mind repeating? There's a relationship between what?
Yes, I'll repeat for you quickly. The question is there a relation between uranium and gold mineralization?
I'm not too sure I understand the question properly yet. Maybe the next question.
The next question that we have, you mentioned a lot of network and grid upgrades with regards to transport, railways, energy. What is the possibility for an international involvement or involvement of German companies? And how would one go about this?
What is the opportunity for international what to do?
The opportunities to get involved in the grid and network upgrades that you mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Let me answer that one. I think I understand the question. Yes, there's a lot of opportunity because that's the way we do it. As a government, we are obviously issuing out our master plan in terms of the network. So what would happen is through participating in the tender process, we'll be able to do that. The other way that we get into expansion of our network is where an IPP is building a power plant and is needing to connect into the bigger network. So there's two ways that you can participate in network development. Based on our plans, our Botswana Power Corporation plan, or based on investors' own plans, where they're building their own power stations and are wanting to connect it to the grid. I guess that's sort of an area that people can get involved. I have talked about also the rail link. That the rail link once the project is done on the electricity grid is ready to go out to the market. Again, they want to do another electricity network. So I guess that is the one for the interested party.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that question. I think this is a great opportunity to get involved as well. Let me quickly check if we have any additional questions. I would just like to remind the audience, please use the chat function if you would like to ask any questions in this session. We have a question related to electricity generation.
Yes.
So let me quickly that I understand this correctly. We've heard earlier in the BITC presentation that there is support for manufacturing, and someone is asking if the SIC codes for generation of electricity generation and or distribution for own use and steam generation and air conditioning supply, do they comply with manufacturing as per the definition provided?
I don't know. The connection is not.
Yes, so we have a person asking about different categories of electricity distribution and their relevant SIC codes, and if this is complying with the manufacturing that has been mentioned. So the SIC codes 351, the generation of electricity, generation and or distribution for own use, and steam generation and air conditioning supply, do they comply with manufacturing that can be supported from your side?
Yes, thank you. And Bamba, Botswana regulator, they ensure that there is compliance, otherwise there is not issue with the regulation. So it's all regulation. So we do compliance.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that question. I think that's the last question. Let me quickly also consult with my colleagues if I've maybe missed another question.
Mr. Masire, one of the questions that we have here is this person would like to know inputs on industrial local regulation and local standards for testing, inspection and certification services industry, as well as local empowerment rules like BEE, for example, triple BEE, for example.
I didn't get the first part of the question. I got the last half. You mind just saying it again?
They would like to know if there are local regulation and local standards for testing, inspection, and certification services.
Yes, the answer is yes, we do have local standards. We have already companies that provide those services themselves, those engage them. But if I understand the question correctly, the answer is we have to definitely for testing.
Thank you, Mr. Masire. Another quick question, perhaps before we conclude the session.
Yes, the last question that just came in, it is related to the Zambezi property. Which crops are you looking to grow on the Zambezi property? And can interested parties look at sections rather than the whole area?
Is that my question?
It just came in, yeah.
About crops, sorry.
Yes, it just came in through the chat. If that's a question that's not related to you specifically, we might maybe pass it on to the representative from BITC.
Yes, if I'm not on the line, I can try, but it's not nothing to my mandate. But if it's a question of crop in the Bamba area, if it's talking about crop, I know there's a lot of production in the area that are going into, but I hope that on the line they can respond to that better. But yes, I have not been crop.
Okay, then maybe we stand that question back and we forward it individually to your colleagues within the Botswana Investment and Trade Center so they can attend to that question on an individual basis. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I am also happy to announce that Her Excellency the Ambassador has been able to join us and she will close the session then for us today. Mr. Olebile, thank you so much for your presentation. And I will hand over to the Ambassador who is also on the line. Her Excellency Ambassador Masire Bamba was appointed as Botswana's second ambassador to the Federal Republic of Germany on 18 December 2018. The ambassador is an international civil servant with over 30 years senior level experience in the field of business, development and multilateral diplomacy. She served as the Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth for a period of 6 years up to 2014. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us and we look forward for your closing remarks related to this session.
Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to say a few words at the end of what from this end sounds like it has been a very interactive session and a session that has really yielded a lot of interest in Botswana and in what Botswana can offer. I would first like to thank you, the Director of Ceremony, Mrs. Leah Esebeth, the Regional Coordinator for Southern Africa, German Chamber of Commerce. I would like to congratulate your president, Mr. Tim Abbott, who has recently been appointed as the president of this Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I would like to thank Mr. Matthias Bodenberg, the CEO of the Southern African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and of course our host and lead investment promoter, Mr. Lusizi Ulibile, and last but not least, the permanent secretary and all other that are on this call, business colleagues from Botswana, business colleagues from South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, mine is just a few, it's just a short intervention really to reinforce the messages that have been delivered to you. I was able to follow the discussion online. I apologize that our connection, both myself and Mr. Seto from my office, we have tried in 101 different ways to connect. And for some reason, something is just saying this is not the time to have it online. And nevertheless, we have gone back to old technology. The phone lines still work. And that is how I'm able to speak to you this afternoon. We have outlined the strategies, the opportunities that Botswana has for yourselves as prospective investors. These opportunities are pertinent as we look at Southern Africa as a region, as we look at extending and extending your operations, not just in South Africa, but across the African continent. So we are very eager to engage yourselves. I can assure you we have the transportation waiting at the border for as soon as the borders open to be able to walk you through and drive you through to the opportunities and to the prospects that Botswana has to offer. I am saying this because I fully appreciate that some of you will have been serving the Botswana market from South Africa, but not just looking at the Botswana market, but we are looking at an outreach. We are looking at using Botswana as a base to be able to consolidate and to expand your business in the region. I also wanted to assure you of Botswana business commitment. Last year, around this time, we had a delegation of over 40 captains of industry from Botswana who came on an investment drive. It was a drive. They arrived here in Berlin. We were able to get to Hamburg, to Leipzig, to Schwerin, and back to Berlin, and all this in a week. And all this looking at the sectors that have been spoken about this morning in more detail. So you will not only find businesses that are eager for investment, but you will also find businesses that are scouting. They are out there looking for you. And we hope through this forum to stimulate the interest and to assure you that investing your time in Botswana would yield positive results. As a representative of the government of Botswana on this call, I also want to assure you of the very strong and cordial bilateral relationships that Botswana has with Germany. I would like to extend an invitation that for those of you that are here on home leave, the Botswana office in Berlin is also your office. Stop by, let's have a cup of tea, let's discuss further, and let's see how we can facilitate and support you from this end. We are here to work with the businesses in Botswana. We are here to work with the businesses that have an interest in Botswana. Ladies and gentlemen, since you can't see my face and you have had quite an intense morning, let me just stop here for now and stop by reassuring you that post-COVID, we are ready. We are ready to facilitate for you, and we invite you, the tourism potential in Botswana is massive, and if you want to come in, we will also be able to showcase not just Gaborone. Investing in Botswana is not necessarily investing in Gaborone. We will drive with you throughout the vast country, and we will be able to point out and to take your input and your feedback as to where and how we can better serve you. We thank you so much for this interest, and we hope that it is just the beginning of a dialogue that will continue and a dialogue that will produce win-win results for all of us. Have a very good day, and once again, thanks for giving up your time and for showing and demonstrating your interest and your commitment. I read through the questions that were coming on, and I'm highly encouraged. I hope you are too. Have a very good day.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We are very happy to have you on this session with your closing remarks. I can also only repeat, we look forward to supporting you. Thank you very much for trusting us in presenting the country and the opportunities in this online webinar today. And we will definitely make use of this invitation in what we hope, or all hope, will soon happen, the possibility to travel again, to visit the Botswanan Embassy in Berlin, and also to visit the beautiful country of Botswana, get to know potential business partners in the country. For all the participants, I have been sharing the contact details of your local BITC contact here in South Africa. We will also share our contact details and all the relevant information and presentations that have been shared here today with all the participants afterwards. So in case you have been missing some of the details, I heard we unfortunately had a bit of a sound issue here and there. You have the possibility to follow up with the speakers, to follow up with us. We assure you we're here to support you along the way, and we look forward to future prosperous relations between German and Botswanan companies. So thank you very much for joining us here today. Thank you to all our speakers, and have a great day further.
Thank you.